Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to the today's live discussion to our CliMates Book Club. Today we are going to be discussing How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. It's a nonfiction book. And yeah, I finished reading this about 40 minutes ago, cutting it short, but better than last time. And it was interesting. But okay, first of all, can you hear me and see me? Or if you can't, let me know, please. Uh, um, I don't think we need to say spoilers. Like I wanted to put the banner down saying spoilers, but it's non-fiction book and there are no spoilers necessarily. So I don't think I'll do that. But I am going to prepare myself a Copile. We can run it through Copile, for me at least. So I'm gonna prepare. I'm sorry, I'm not ready. How to avoid a climate disaster. There. And okay, because I don't know what the rating will be. I was a little bit disappointed, so that's not great. But we can discuss it and we'll see. Maybe it'll have better rating than expected. So it's all good. We'll see. Um, I've got my coffee and I'm ready for this nonsense. Hello, Jess. I have my water, and yeah, I should be like, what is now 8? I should be down here now with my water. I'm up here, so I have a lot to do. I don't have tea or anything because I just had dinner, like just finished dinner. But glad you have coffee. Sounds good. You are prepared. I finished about 2 hours ago, so it's fresh in both our memories. Is the lighting good as well? I think it's pretty dark. It's because of the sun. I hear you and also see the turtles. Yeah, the turtles are important. They are mascots of the book club. There we go. That's better. um, hello, we have our bot. But yeah, so how this works, how the annotating worked in this one is I got, oh, sunshine. I got orange tabs, which are interesting thing. I got pink tabs, which are important things that I potentially would like to talk about now. And then I have one yellow tab. There is one yellow that represents, I think that was like screaming tab. And then throughout the book, I just have somewhere notes, as in this time I didn't have like a notebook, but I put in a post-it note and wrote note on that. So it's directly in the book and directly know what it refers to. So I did a bit differently this way, and I kind of like it because it's easier to reference the things. I also listened to it on audiobook for most of it. It was narrated by Will Wheaton, which was interesting. I didn't like the way he narrated it, the way he talked. Some sentences didn't match at all to how I would read it and made it sound a bit more annoying, a bit more arrogant at some points, which maybe was the point, but I didn't like the narration all that much. But that's like, I don't think that took my opinion of it down at all. Yeah, it's just an interesting point to it. I have notes in Google Docs, lots of caps. Yep. So it's gonna be interesting. Um, Will Wheaton, yes, bless him, he got me through it. Lol. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. He was good. The audiobook definitely helped, but yeah, there's some, like, in general it was fine, but there are some words, some phrases that he pronounced, like, or like the way he said it, I was like, Ishk. But it's okay. It's good. It's good. Um, I don't know if you noticed, in the description down below is a link to a video. I watched it this morning. It's Russell Brand ranting about Bill Gates and how like he's talking about climate change, and I loved it so much. I laughed so hard. I recommend watching that. It was brilliant. it's only 15 minutes long, so that is great. I think the narrative tone is pretty obnoxious, so he nailed it for me. True. Exactly. Like it bothered me, but I think it matched perfectly. Um, yeah, okay. So first of all, if anybody ever stumbles onto this live show, we just should talk first about what the book is about. And the subtitle is The Solutions We Have and the Breakthroughs We Need. And basically, that's exactly what the book is. He talks about all kinds of different things. I think overall, I didn't like the way how hypocritical he sounds in it, and a bit selfish. But there were lots of interesting things that I um, marked and were like, that's interesting, that's good to know, even though like I really didn't enjoy the book. I think there are some interesting things. There was a lot I learned about electricity and energy. This in the back is the shadow of my hair. Anyway, he talks focuses a lot, I think, on electricity and energy, and he goes pretty deep into it. Considering how short the chapter was, he talks about it the entire book, which is not bad because I honestly like never really dug deep into energy and how electricity is produced and what's good, what's bad, and how it's possible to improve it. So that was very interesting and very like lots of interesting information. And otherwise, I didn't think it brought anything new. Quite to the contrary, it gave lots of statistics that were completely out of context, left out a lot of key information that could have changed the tone he tried to portray. The writing sometimes was absolutely awful for a nonfiction book. And um, that's like my quick review, but we'll dive deep. And yeah, it was just I had lots of opinions on it, and I did vlog it. So the vlog will come probably in like September or October or something, so quite in the future. But I was so angry, especially in the first chapter. I think I need to change the light because it's gonna give me migraine. If this is okay, I think once the sun sets, it's gonna be better. Um, I think the narrative tone is pretty obnoxious. Yeah, that we said. Well, I know what I'm doing after this live. Yeah, yeah. Like Russell Brand is sometimes a lot to take. I feel like I am not a big fan of the way he talks sometimes and like the way he screams. But that video, he nailed it. It was brilliant. Breakthroughs, his favorite. Yes, I wish there was like a Kindle or like a Kindle book ebook, and we could like search in the in the Kindle, and it would pop up how many times the word was used. It was a lot. Taking his private jet to the Paris climate conference. I cannot. Yes. Yeah, and that is my biggest problem. That excuse me. That is what also Russell Russell Brand was talking about like how awkward that interview was, because there was an interview where I think Bill Clinton talked to BBC, and I couldn't find the interview for the life of me. I was searching for it, I couldn't find the interview, but there was a short clip of it. And yeah, basically they ask him like, what do you say to the people that they think you are hypocritical when like that you fly your private jet, like you talk about climate change and you're kind of like a climate change, I don't know, activist, what do you call it, but or you speak on climate change, but you fly your private jet to the climate conference. And he was like, well, I do offset all the carbon emissions of my family. So I am quite proud to say that I am not part of the problem. I am actually part of the solution. And if that is not the most ridiculous billionaire thing you could say, I don't know what is. Like, I don't hate billionaires just because they're billionaires. Like, there are many successful rich people who got there by being nice. Like, unlikely, but it does happen. So I'm not going to hate on anyone just because they have a lot of money. But this particular point was insane. And I even marked it here. Like, he does mention it. Yeah, I'm aware that I'm an imperfect messenger on climate change. The world is not exactly lacking in rich men with big ideas about what other people should do or who think technology can fix any problem. And I own big houses and fly with private planes. In fact, I took one to Paris for the climate conference. So who am I to lecture anyone on the environment? I plead guilty to all three charges. I can't deny being a rich guy with an opinion. What did I write? You can't have it both ways. Yeah, it's insane. Um, so that killed me. And all his justification that he uses biofuel, I don't give a crap. We can dive, like, we can talk about it more, but I just want to go through the comments first and maybe structure it a little bit. I never thought so much about concrete before this. That's a positive, I guess. Yeah, definitely. I did know about concrete because that is my area of work. Like, I am an engineer. I studied, yeah, road building and construction and stuff like that. So I knew about that. And I didn't know how bad it was. I knew it was bad though. And I know, like, in our, okay, I live in Sweden. So there is no way we can compare Sweden to the US when we talk about this. Like, we should be able to, but we are not, because just the cultural setting, and especially the political setting, is very different in Sweden and in the US. And here, uh, most of our projects, our client is a public agency, who, yeah, they own most of the roads, like the public roads, and they are our most common client. And when we have projects for them, when we deliver projects, we always deliver also, or like part of the delivery is also the environmental impact of the project when it comes to the construction and the materials, especially. And then uh, they, based on that, because every bid would use different materials or different amount, so that is incorporated in the price of the bid. And once they finish it, or like once they build a project, they do offset everything that they do in the project. They need to offset it. They need to spend money on some projects and things like that. So, like, that is a standard here, that the public sector offsets all the carbon emissions. I'm not saying it's a good way to do it, but it is a very good step forward. um, so there was one point in the book where he talked about how, um, it was in particular this, I remember that you are in Seattle and you are the engineer who is accepting bids for rebuilding a bridge. And you're gonna get one bid for the normal concrete and or normal steel. I don't remember if it was steel bridge. And that's gonna cost $100 per ton or something, and the other one is gonna be $200 per ton. So of course you're gonna choose the first one, because you want the cheaper version. Well, here it's not straightforward. Here they would consider that, okay, this is more expensive, but that means it's better for the environment, and that way, like, they get advantaged when it comes to offsetting and these kind of things. Like, and they get some, I don't know if there is some score or something on how many, like, how environmental or sustainable they are. But that is a real thing here, and I'm just baffled that that's not normal in America. And especially, it sounded as if he didn't think that that's how it should be, even though he did talk about it later, but at that point he didn't point it out. Yeah, it's just such a different mindset is the US. And I wouldn't even say Europe, I would say Sweden, because I know the Swedish market, and or like the market when it comes to the construction, especially concrete and steel and asphalt and these things. Even though he does refer when he talks about concrete, he refers to roads a lot, which is very uncommon to have roads made of concrete. Just saying. But they are made from asphalt, which is made from fossil fuels. But he doesn't talk about that. So anyway, the irony of him talking about needing context for statistics and taking things out of context himself. Yes, I was livid. Like you can't do that. And my favorite on that one, should I go? I need to debatable logic. Yes. Hello, welcome. Nah. I'm sorry, I have to call you Natalie. Like I can't do it to call you Na, because in my native language, Na is a preposition and my brain doesn't comprehend that that's your name. So I'm gonna call you Natalie if that's okay. I'm really sorry. Or I can try, but I just really struggle with it and my brain breaks every time I try. I didn't read the book, but I'm here listening to you guys in the background to hear your thoughts. Nice. I mean, this is no spoilers. It's basically just a nonfiction book by Bill Gates. So you can totally do that. Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for hanging out with us. Hope it's going to be fun because I think we're going to rant. Hello, Nah. I will absolutely hate on him for having a lot of money. Yeah, I don't. I might be jealous, but I will not hate just. I will not hate someone just because they have money. That's like just pointing out like Taylor Swift. Very soon she's gonna be a billionaire. Very soon she's gonna have $1 billion. Are people gonna start hating on her just because she is rich? No. There are nice people who are extremely rich. That's my reasoning. Anyway, you can hate anyone you want. Also, I love how he acknowledges that he's rich, but not that he's also white and male. Some privileges left out. I don't know, Bill. um, yeah, definitely. He does point out the white privilege later on when he's talking about. Was it about? I don't know what it was about. It was about the Black communities and Latinx communities. Was it regarding the COVID or something? He was talking about that, how they take the brunt of it and everything. Um, and yeah, he never actually like acknowledged that he has a white privilege, but I personally, I don't think that was necessary in this book in the way he was writing it. I think that's going to be a very big deal in the next book, not the next book, the next nonfiction book we have. That's why I picked it, because I'm really intrigued by that. And you know that I'm a little like not confused, but I like to dig into it because I don't fully understand those things. Even though I did grow up in very racist country, um, it wasn't racist because um, like we were racist to other non-white people. It just we didn't have any, and like the percentage is very small. And I was actually looking the other day about like what is the percentage of like ethnicities in Slovakia, and I found out that in European Union it is illegal to collect data on that. So there is no official statistics about how many Black, Latinx, Roma, what is the word? Oh my gosh, I know the word that you're not supposed to use for them. Jesus, what is the name? Romani people, I guess. Um, we have lots of those though, but it's just there is no official statistics on that, so it's really hard to say how many people actually there are in Slovakia who are non-white. There are some now, but like smaller than you would have here in Sweden or in France or UK or USA or whatever. So why am I talking about that? Because yeah, I did grow up in a racist country. That's what I started. I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, I grew up in racist country, but I don't fully understand the American side of racism, because I think the racism activism and racism itself is different in the US and in Europe. Um, Regardless, I don't think in this book it was necessarily that important. He does acknowledges he's rich, and he does acknowledges that he has means that other people just don't. And in a way, like, he talks about low income people, which to me makes more sense than to talk about non-white people, because there are non-white people who are richer than white people, who are richer than me, and I'm doing fine, and they're like, and there are white people who are really struggling. So I think it makes more sense to refer to people low income rather than white or non-white, because I think that is just very wide or very very strong generalization. I understand why it's made, and it's fine. I don't have anything against it. I just don't think personally it was necessary to point that out in this book particularly. But yeah, I don't know what his opinion is on being white and male. I mean, there is nothing he can do about it anyway. So that's another thing. The whole book was really US centric. It was. Um, Natalie is totally fine. Thank you. It was very, very US centric. And I just get tired of that all the books about environment are very US centric. But I get it, because European Union doesn't work the same US does. The US is one big country, while European Union has, even though US has like different state legislatures and state governments, like very small parts. In Europe, we don't have that. Yeah, I mean, in Europe, we have countries which are very separate from each other, and the cultures are completely different from one another, and it's just very different, I feel like. So I would, to write a book from European point of view, it would really need to kind of focus on a specific country rather than Europe, even though it still would make some sense, but it's not as accurate, I would say, because how often do we vote in like European election? There, I don't even know when it is, or I don't even know what's happening there. Like, I know nothing about European elections, for example, and European government. So I think it's a bit different there. So I think that's why it makes sense that lots of books and lots of people are focusing on the either whole world or the US, because it's just a bit different situation. I don't know if that makes sense. Oh yeah, he talks about POC in the afterward rage. Yeah, yep. He does mention it, but I again I think like he does talk a lot about the people who did not create the problem and who were not, the cause of the problem. And again, I don't think for me personally, like maybe some people would like it, but for me personally, I don't think it matters that much, or like it would make or add anything to it if he would say that black people in Africa or something. Like, we know majority of people in Africa are black, and that they are majority of the countries in Africa are low income or underdeveloped or developing. And like for me it kind of makes sense. It was very wide, it was not very specified what he was talking about a lot of the times, but I think as a generalization, because it is a short book, so he needed to make some generalizations. As a generalization, it kind of made sense to me anyway. But yeah, Romani, yeah, I always knew them, or when I learned English I knew them as gypsies, but I understand they don't like that word anymore, so now I'm gonna get canceled for that. But yeah, in Slovakia we have lots of those Romani people, Roma people, and yeah, there is a lot of tension between Slovaks and them. but that's a whole different issue. About that also, I read an article about it written from the European point of view about how Slovaks were treating them, but they left out so much stuff that they actually did, the Romani people, and what that created all the tension or was a big factor in it. So it just felt ridiculous because, like, yeah, there were definitely things that Slovak government did that was not good for them, or um, kind of did discriminate them at some point. But then after some time, they realized that was wrong and they tried to do something good for them, but they just took advantage of it, and then the government just reacted on top of it. So it was kind of like piling on top of each other. It wasn't like Slovak government oppressed them and that's the end of the story. That's what the article was talking about, but that's not how it was. So yeah, it's a whole issue there, and that's why I also don't like, but I don't think it's necessary to constantly whip out white, black, person of color or anything. Like, there is always so much more going on than just being white or black or whatever people might be. That it's not always, I would say, in the best interest of the particular piece to talk about. For example, this book, I don't feel like it was the point of the book, so I didn't really feel bothered by that. But I'm really excited about the climate justice. That I think is going to be all about that. So I'm really excited about that one. Then you're talking about it because he doesn't. Oh yeah, I'm. I got lost here. That was 6 minutes ago. I don't know what I was talking about. Um, but yeah, he. Oh, there was another thing he mentions: rich countries and places with poverty, and doesn't seem to really understand all the in betweens. Yes. Um, yeah, I mean, basically, he left out the whole bunch of the world, but um, again, I don't think this was the kind of the book where he needed to go into every little detail and every country and every continent and all the things. I think it could have complemented the book a bit better if he dived a bit deeper. Um, but I think he had, like, as much as I didn't like the book, I think he had a certain objective in his mind that he wanted to give to people, and that was the innovations and the breakthrough, and how it's not as simple as that. Like, for example, I like usually what the Greenpeace does, or I'm very pro, like, environment and everything, but I do think that nuclear power plants are one of the best energy we have, and I know that the Greenpeace, for example, is absolutely against it. So I think it was a very good book regarding this. And I think that's what he kind of wanted to portray, that it's not that simple, that you can't just stop one thing. And, like some activists, or how it's sometimes portrayed in the media, that we should just stop doing this and start doing that. It's not that simple. And I think he explained that really well in the book. So that, I think, was really well done. And I think that's why he wanted to write the book. How it was written is a completely different issue, but I think is what he wanted to bring through. I don't know what was all about the malaria thing, that I didn't get what that has to do with the climate change. I guess he just wanted to say, "Oh, I achieved this," and everybody said it was impossible, so we can also achieve that. I guess that was that, or it was just bragging. But yeah, it was, and also that not everyone in a rich country is rich. Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, but again, I don't. Um, yeah, he didn't specify. He did talk about countries in general, because I think in his mind, and that's one of the things why. Not I don't think that's the reason I don't like the book, but that's the reason that I struggled with this book, is because he's writing it from the point of view of a billionaire, not from the point of view of a common person, which is what we are here, what you are saying. That people of color, he is white and male and has this privilege that other people don't, or like the I don't know, people of color don't, or whatever. And rich countries, that not everybody in rich country is rich. Again, I don't think he was writing from that point of view. He was writing as a billionaire who has the means to do big things, and who sees how the governments work and how the international cooperation works, and how that's important, and how that improved lots of things. So I think he has this different view on the world and view on the issue that we don't have. We focus on what is important to us, which is, the little people things, like, you are in a rich country but you're not rich, for example. While that's not what he was focusing on, I guess that's not the point of view he was trying to bring, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense at all. But yeah, like, in this sense it was very different. Like, the book was very different from your normal environmental nonfiction, because this was written from the point of view of the governments and big organizations and everything, not from the point of view of activists, which is a very different point of view. So yeah, some states are like different planets, seriously. Yep, absolutely. He also lumps together the European Union a lot of stuff, which I can see if he's talking about laws or regulations that cover the whole EU, but it's just weird to not think of individual countries. Um, yes. I also think it kind of makes sense because, well, European Union, it has some laws and regulations that apply for all the member countries. But then every country has their own issues and laws and everything. So yeah, it is tricky, but it was a very short book to cover everything. So I guess that's why he just lumped it all together for the sake of the conversation, not not to overbear with information. I guess that's what I am assuming. Sub-Saharan Africa, I'd also like a count on how many times he said that, and breakthroughs and innovation. Yep, definitely Sub-Saharan Africa, so many times. It's the worst part in the world, isn't it? The poorest. It's, yeah, that was said a lot. I guess, to be fair to Gate, it's hard to cover the entire world in a tiny book. Yeah, exactly. Like, he just had an objective that he needed to kind of focus on, and the other things were just like a generalization to just kind of mention them or pass by. He couldn't say everything um, in the book, or it's very hard. Like, that kind of thing we had, or similar to that, we had in the climate book, but that was a 500-page brick. Insane. Like, that was a big difference from this. That had all the details, everything, and that was from the point of view of common people. It was scientists, it was professors, it was environmentalists, activists, it was all kinds of people, and it was very different tone to this. So yeah, it's hard to cover everything in a short book. Also, I'm thinking the book wasn't really written for people like us. Yes, that's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking that maybe more targeting companies and businesses, governments and policymakers, etc., and his name will get him an audience with them. Yes, I definitely agree with you. I did feel a lot of time like that. That's not a book for us. Like, it does help us understand how it actually works. I don't know what to do with the sun. um, yeah, so I like, there is nothing that really includes us, but I feel like it may be good to understand more. And in this sense, like, the energies definitely helped me understand the entire issue around the electricity. Like, I understood it anyway, because I think it was in the climate book, and I don't know if I read it already somewhere else as well, that the transition to renewable energy is not going to be smooth, for a very solid reason and for a very big problem. And I think he explained that pretty well. Or yeah, I think so. And yeah, definitely more focused on the policymakers and organizations and, yeah, businesses, governments. Definitely. So much was about his achievements and investments, almost presented like he's only involved in the best things. His things are the best. Yes, Yeah, but absolutely. It was almost crazy. Oh, and this amazing thing I invested in, and this amazing thing I invested in, and this amazing thing. Oh, give it a break. You invested in a lot of great things, apparently. Yes, I much prefer the climate book. Yes, I did too. It was much longer to read, but it felt like the articles were so well written. The information was always relevant, and it was great. It was great. Question: were there footnotes? I got annoyed every time he said note or tip, but I don't know if that's just how it was read in the audio. No, there were footnotes. Like here. There is a footnote here. Yeah, there were. And I wanted to say, and he eats some vegan burgers to offset his private jet, of course. Yeah. Actually, that was, I think, was it in the article? I think there was one article that I found. I don't know, maybe I can share it. I found exactly about this. Okay, let's see if I can share it. I think that's interesting. Okay, here, can I do that? No, I'm gonna be next to it so you can see it. I'm not part of the problem. Bill Gates says his private jet and climate activism are compatible. And I like how it explains. He has shrugged off allegations that he's a hypocrite for climate campaigning while traveling by private jet. He addressed the accusation by saying he offsets his family carbon footprint and contributes to solutions. And here, this one: I buy the gold standard of funding, ClimeWorks, to do direct air capture that far exceeds my family's carbon footprint, and I spend billions of dollars on climate innovation. I'm comfortable with the idea that not only am I not part of the problem, but also through the billions that my breakthrough energy group is spending, that I'm part of the solution. So, should I stay at home and not come to Kenya and learn about farming and malaria? I don't think you can understand this remotely. And then in the book, it says, wait, I'm going to find it. I love that so much. It was about the direct air capture. Yeah, here. Is it this one? That it says, it's in the chapter how we plug in. I have it on page 95. I don't know. I guess you don't have the book actually. And then he is saying, yeah, here. A solar farm needs between 5 and 50 times more land to generate as much electricity as an equivalent, blah, blah, blah. Anything that reduces the scale we need to reach is helpful. And then I have a note. This is not the tone of this book so far. But that's not what I wanted to say. Where is it? It was, yeah, in all likelihood, it will be a crucial part of going to zero, was the direct air capture. But it is a much bigger technical challenge than point capture, thanks to the low concentration of carbon dioxide in the air. And then it says, today's approaches to direct air capture require a lot of energy to trap the greenhouse gases, collect them, and store them safely. There is no way to do all that work without using some energy. The laws of physics set a minimum amount on how much will be required. And then I don't know where that was. That was somewhere else. That the direct air capture is completely like unreliable, and I guess it was somewhere else. I'm sorry, this is not what I thought I would find it quickly. Oh yeah, here. Direct air capture is an expensive and largely unproven technology, but if it can work at a large scale, it would allow us to capture carbon dioxide no matter when or where it was produced. In other words, using the it also okay. Whatever. Using the direct air capture approach to solve the climate problem would cost at least $5.1 trillion per year, every year, as long as we produce emissions. And that's around 6% of the world's economy. And then he goes, as I mentioned, the direct air capture based approach is really just a thought experiment. In reality, the technology behind direct air capture isn't ready for global deployment, and even if it were, direct air capture would be an extremely inefficient method for solving the world's carbon problem. It's not clear that we could store hundreds of billions of tons of carbon safely, blah, blah, blah. And it's probably the most expensive solution. In many cases, it will be cheaper not to emit greenhouse gases in the first place. And I wanted to throw the book across the room. Like, you can't be serious. Insane. That makes it less annoying then, but still. I'm not sure what this refers to. Did I miss that? But yeah, I'm sure I agree. Right. What a title. Yes, I'm not part of the problem. Bill Gates says his private jet and climate activism are compatible. Brilliant. Love that you showed up with those receipts. I mean, that's the thing that bothered me the most. And like when I was reading it, I was like, "Are you?" And I even wrote a note saying, "You need a mirror." I wrote to him. Like I was mad. Just the logic of it. If you don't do the problematic thing in the first place, you don't have to work extra to offset it. Maybe that's my wild lower middle class logic. Exactly. Like if you want to do so good for the world and you want to invest in the direct air capture because you believe that that's what's good for the environment and what would help a lot, then do it without flying the private jet. You know you can fly, like if you need to fly, you can fly on proper planes. You know that, right? I guess maybe he's scared that flying to Africa is maybe less reliable and more dangerous or whatever, so he wants to fly with his private jet. Then just don't go there. Don't fly to freaking Paris for a climate conference on your freaking private jet. And also, sorry, he uses biofuel. He spends I don't know how much extra money, so he uses the expensive fuel that's better for the environment than the normal fuel. You gotta love him. Less annoying was the fact that there were footnotes. Yep, exactly. Sounds very irritating so far. It was. I was so angry the entire time, you have no idea. Exactly. Greta over there taking a damn boat across the Atlantic Ocean while he's over here with his private jet. I know. To be fair, Greta said that she doesn't think that's like a proper way to go or anything, but yeah, she just wanted to show that it is possible, but she wasn't trying to point out that like this is a good way. Like she was actually saying that she suffered so much on that trip, and I think she had a horrible seasickness for a couple days, and she felt, I think at some point she thought they were going to die because they hit like a storm. And yeah, it was she said like she doesn't recommend, but definitely a big difference there. But I did show up with receipts. What I have yellow. What do I have with yellow? I want to know. I forgot. I have, short of simply shutting down these parts of the manufacturing sector, we can do nothing today to avoid these emissions. Why is that in yellow? I guess because it's so crucial. That how can we go down to zero if we still need to build freaking New York every 4 years? Or was it 4 New Yorks every year? Something for a foreseeable future. But yeah, there was one part that I wanted to mention because it made me so angry. I read it to my boyfriend and he was like, "Yeah, I guess that's annoying." So I wanna see if you guys also think it's annoying. Yeah, I have some like a bunch of side notes. But there was this one comparison when he was talking about yeah, here. It is again how we plug in making carbon free electricity. So he's talking about nuclear fission. And yeah, again, as I said, I think I agree nuclear power is very good for the environment. Of course, we understand the risks, but compared to all the other power plants, incomparably better. However, he says the United States, and like I'm going to read the entire thing because like the entire paragraph, because he's drawing a comparison that to me makes zero sense. I'm just going to read it. No other clean energy source even comes close to what nuclear already provides today. Here I mean nuclear fission, the process of getting energy by splitting atoms apart. I'll get to its counterpart, nuclear fusion, in the next section. The United States gets around 20% of its electricity from nuclear plants. France has the highest share in the world, getting 70% of its electricity from nuclear. All right? Remember that by comparison, solar and wind together provide about 7% worldwide. I'm sorry, I don't understand the comparison you're trying to show here. What are you trying to compare? You're trying to compare nuclear in France to solar and wind in the world. How does that tell me anything? And then at the bottom of the page, I don't know if the audiobook that you got, if it got the PDF, because Will Wheaton was referring to the PDF all the time, but I had the book, so I could just look at the book. But there is this graph talking about like how much material is needed for each power plant, and instead of saying how much material does it take to build and run a power plant, he says how much stuff does it take? I'm sorry, I thought I was reading a nonfiction and not just some teenager first ever time researching stuff about power plants. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I want to throw this book away. I mean, I did mark plenty of good things, so I'm not gonna. But, I'm missing all the comments. I'm sorry. Oh, right. At the beginning, he said something he put several $1 million into, and my brain just stopped working for a minute. Yeah. Yep. Was there anything you actually learned or was helpful in the entire book? Yes, absolutely. I learned a lot about the electricity and the energy. He talks a lot about that, about how it's made, how it actually works, where it comes from, and what it would take to switch fully to solar or wind energy, and why it's almost impossible to do that completely. And yeah, he's talking about the transmission on transfer of the energy, and how basically it's impossible or very ineffective to transfer energy. For example, let's say solar energy from Texas to New York, for example, if you would have that, or Texas to, I don't know, let's say where, Montana. And wind energy from, I don't know where they have wind energy in, I don't know, Connecticut to Indiana, for example. Like how hard that would be to rebuild the entire grid to fit the new renewable energy system, and why that's probably not going to happen, and that we need to develop uh, more sustainable other energies. Um, like, even though I was surprised by the hydropower, because hydropower is not very environmentally friendly, but that's another story. So that I learned a lot about the electricity and the grid and how that works. Even though he was making some weird comparisons again, like, oh, well, you use electricity so you can watch TV and dry your hair. I'm like, I dry my hair like once in half a year, and I don't need TV. Like, why don't we use electricity, or like example for electricity in, for example, hospitals where you need to have electricity, stable electricity, where what about the heating? You need heating. At some point it even felt like he didn't even believe that you need heating inside. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the writing was not good. A lot of times he portrayed something that then he completely said opposite in the next, so it was just clearly not written correctly. So that, and then what else did we learn? Just what did you learn? What did we learn? Any, like, I think if it's the first nonfiction book about climate that you would read, I think you would learn a lot. But since we read the climate book like 4 months ago, lots of this was covered there. So it wasn't that much, but it was a lot. It was very interesting about the steel and concrete, how that's very bad for the environment. I knew it was bad, and I knew steel was really, really bad. I just didn't know the numbers, so that was interesting. Um, how we grow things, yeah. So agriculture I knew. There was a lot of about the fertilization. So for example, until now I didn't know why they were so bad. I thought it was like the sprays and stuff that were like pesticides were really bad. I didn't know the fertilizers were bad as well. So that was really interesting, and how that works and how the plants work. So that was really cool. How we keep cool and stay warm, adapting to a warmer world. Yeah, I mean, and the rest were kind of boring to me anyway, but could be influenced that we read the climate book and there was like so much information. So it wasn't, lots of it was not new. The casual way he talks about money, yes. Yeah, like whatever. He said something about making companies pay the actual price for carbon emissions, like factoring in environmental impact, which is great for rich companies but not for regular humans. Yes, absolutely. I mean, he does mention that for companies it should be fine. He does also say, like, for common people sometimes it could work. Like, for example, let's say if you would want the more environmentally friendly steel in your car, like that your car would be made of more environmentally friendly steel, then it would cost, instead of 30,000, it would cost 32,000. Then that the difference could be worth it. But of course, that's up to the customer. But then again, you don't choose what material your car is made of, and unless they make it widely on the market, you can't choose. And so there is these kind of problems and issues. So that was interesting to kind of think about. It is, though, for more like governmental and big organizations situation, not so much for, yeah, common people or small businesses. That's yeah, he didn't go very deep into it, but I did like the way it was written. I like, because it's not a simple issue. But design in theory, but the execution needs work. Yep. Yes. I also learned he's very condescending and likes math, and he likes fertilizers are magic. He is condescending, and he really likes to find excuses. He likes to find something that, oh well, but it, if I just do this little thing, it's not gonna change anything. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. One thing I thought it was perfect, like, idea, perfect portrayal of his deliberate ignorance and kind of way to find excuses while trying to sound smart. And I was like, I see right through you, Bill. And that was when he was talking about the thing, when was it in Europe, that they were able to drop the aviation carbon emissions by, what was it, 17% or something. And he kept saying, Oh my gosh, where do I find it? It was somewhere in the beginning. I want to find it because that drove me mad. That was like, my guy, not fun. Not good at all. Was that in... This will be hard. Wait, it was before we plug in. 5 questions. Yeah, 5 questions to ask. Exactly. Here. One article said, he's saying, one article said that an emission trading program in Europe had reduced the carbon footprint of the aviation sector there by 17 million tons per year. 17 million tons certainly sounds like a lot, but is it? What percentage of the total does it represent? The article didn't say, and that kind of emission was surprisingly common. So he's complaining now about how there was not enough information. And he is basically the first, like the introduction is 51 billion tons, which means that world as a whole releases 51 billion tons of greenhouse gases per year. And so when the European aviation said they were able to cut it by 17 million tons per year, he was like, ooh, we need to compare to 51 billions, right? 51 billion. And he's like, I prefer to connect everything back to the main goal of eliminating 51 billion tons a year. Consider the aviation example I mentioned at the start of this chapter, the program that's getting rid of 17 million tons a year, divided by 51 billion and turn it into a percentage. That's a reduction of about 0.03% of annual global emissions. Is that a meaningful contribution? He doesn't think so. That depends on the answer to this question. Is the number likely to go up or is it going to stay the same? And I'm going to answer that question to you, and I'm going to tell you that, sir, you're wrong, because you need to compare it to the aviation emissions, not all the emissions. So if the European aviation is going to say that we are cutting back 17 million tons a year, and before that, or like, so we are still going to emit 50 million tons, and we're cutting back 17, that's amazing progress. And I would say that's amazing. But if then, like, if you would say that the full, emissions is 200 million and we're cutting back 17, it's still good. You could do better, but it's still good. I'm not going to compare it to every single thing on the planet, because then nothing will ever get done, because it's going to be compared to everything on the planet combined. That is insane, and that is wrong. So I rest my case. I don't know if I actually explained reason why, but I think you guys maybe understand what I mean. Let me know if not. Maybe I can try to explain better, but that I was climbing the roof here. Like, why can't I throw away this book? I didn't see the PDF, but I figure it was all either in the climate book or it was bullshit. Yep, pretty much. True, the electricity stuff was pretty interesting, and pointing out how some areas or countries don't always have wind or sunny days, so we need other solutions too. Yeah, I think that was very interesting. I didn't know. I never actually researched that. I never dug into it too much, so I didn't really know about that. So that was really good, I think. Right, we need to keep the turtles in the picture. So that was very interesting, definitely. And I appreciated how even he sees that rich people countries are the biggest problem, but poor areas countries suffer the most, and it's our responsibility to help. Yes, I think that was very nice of him to understand that, or to point it out multiple times. I got really defensive during the air conditioning part. My dad does HVAC, and I am a big fan of my AC as an asthmatic human whose bedroom is basically in the attic. Look, I was just laughing because we don't have AC here. We have AC in the office. There is AC in the buses, in the trains, but at homes here don't have AC commonly. So it is different. But then, of course, in Spain, for example, there is going to be AC in the houses, or in Italy or these southern countries. But Middle Europe and Northern Europe, definitely not. So that was funny. But just the climate is different. And depending on where you live, like if you just think you live somewhere in Europe, New York, right? If you compare it, like where it is on the earth, that's about the same, what is it, latitude as like Venice, is it? Which is very much south of Europe. And of course there are like some environmental and like not environment but like the planet, the ocean streams and everything moving around, so that's why north of Europe is habitable, inhabitable, um, and like why it's so different here than it is in like northern Canada, which is about the same latitude. But still, like the sun in New York is going to be stronger than sun here, for example. So yeah, it's a big difference. And uh, I don't know, the AC, like if you need it, you need it, you know, like that's, I don't think that was necessarily a tag on like we can't have AC. It was just like pointing out that, well, we're just too used to it, kind of thing. I just saw on TikTok the other day, yesterday, Australian was, I think, in France or in the UK, like dying from the heat. How can you live here? It's so hot. And like she was huffing and puffing, just walking down the street. And it's like, well, it's just different climate, isn't it? He also didn't mention how the coolants he talked about that are terrible for the environment, they are not legal to use anymore for many years. I think he got his info from the 70s. Could be, could be. He didn't explain that at all. Um, he basically, the only thing he said about the coolants was that they just start leaking the older the device gets, and I don't understand that at all. I have no idea what that means. So I'm thinking, are there like are there either leaking from our fridge here? Like, am I breathing it when I'm sitting in the living room because we have connected kitchen and living? Like, I didn't get it at all. Like, it wasn't explained. That was another thing about the book. He didn't explain things well at all. Just read the climate book is the moral of the story. I think yes, it is. Mostly unrelated, but every time he mentioned getting to zero, I thought of Clio's Zero TBR project or the Captain Planet theme song. Gonna take pollution down to zero. I don't know the song, but yeah. Yeah, I talked that getting them down to zero a lot. In Sweden, we have a different project is called Zero Project or Project Zero. It is they want to achieve zero fatalities on roads. So that's Sweden's Project Zero, actually. They want to make roads safe enough and cars safe enough and people to drive safe enough that nobody will die on the road. It's not very successful. It's getting better though, but it's not at zero. So anyway, are there any more things I wanted to point out? I don't think so. I think the ones I wanted to rant about the most, I did. I have lots of different like notes. Yeah, I was very optimistic about some things and then just not others. Yeah, here is the cement. Anything that reduces it should be done. Yeah. So I think I said most of it. I don't. Here I have a note. I don't understand any of this. Could use better explanation. What was that about? That was about, yeah, the batteries and explaining all the batteries and pumped hydro. I think he took it very much from just from the fast train, speed train, not explaining all that much about it. But overall, I mean, like I learned some things, and I learned a lot about the energies. Um, yeah, the green premium was not explained properly. I thought it was just way too simple, and then he goes into depth about it, like about in different aspects of what we need to change and what the green premium would be. So it kind of turned like I guess he did do the math okay, but like the way he explained it in the beginning, I was like, that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I think then later it did. But yeah, that was I think most I wanted to rant about. I'm almost positive if it's leaking coolant, you need to fix or replace it immediately, and you don't just toss coolant in the garbage. You have to recover it and dispose of it properly. Good to know. Good to know. I don't know. It just felt like he had a little knowledge about a lot of things. Yes, yeah. I think he has a lot of knowledge about the electricity and these things and how that's produced. Even though that those explanations seem sometimes a bit like, yeah, if you're in the US, you know what the kilowatt hour is. And then he continued on. I'm like, well, explain it to me. I'm not in the US. I don't know what it means. Like, I probably learned in school, but it was like 20 years ago. I don't remember. He was also way too excited to talk about cow poop and farts when he was talking about methane. Yep. Yeah, about how Melinda let him use fart only once in the letter they wrote together. So here he's going to use as many farts as he wants. I'm like, okay. It bothered me too how breakthroughs and innovation were his solutions to everything. Solutions like discoveries are inevitable and just on the horizon. Yeah, it just was like, um I don't think you are really bringing anything new to the table saying that we need innovations. I think everybody knows that we need innovations and that we need the things that we have to be more efficient and to get better at all of these things. I don't think there was anything new. So that point kind of escaped, I think. We need to work on breakthroughs and fund research. Sure. Oh yeah, that one. Oh, I was angry. He kept saying R&D, 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 R&D. And I kept going back, like, where is the R&D explained? It just came out of nowhere. R&D is not explained anywhere. He mentions it multiple times because it's, part of the text, part of what he wants to talk about. At one point, I got so upset. Where is it? I got so upset, actually. Where is it? I wrote in big letters on the side, like, what is R&D? I don't know. Here. What is R&D? I don't know. And then I had to Google because I was just tired of not knowing. And he never explained, so I Googled, and then I found out it was research and development. And then you go to the very last chapter, and in the very last chapter, he actually explains what R&D is. For those of you who don't know, and who didn't read this book, it is research and development is R&D. He said it on page 229, and the book has 230 pages. He was talking about R&D for about 40 pages before that. I was angry. Where was the editor? I'm in the US and I don't know what that means. And he didn't even explain it. And in general, gas is freaking expensive. No one will be willing to pay more for it or to buy electric cars. Yeah, again, very different. In Norway, they did very much. I don't even know what it was, but they had some law that you don't need to pay taxes for your car if you buy an electric car. So, like, I think now like 60 or 70% of cars in Norway are electric, and then they canceled it. So the prices of the electrical cars increased. And in Slovakia, they ran an article about how Norwegians got tired of electric cars and how they bought so many of them and they don't want them anymore, and how they went back on their environmental stance. And then when you read into it, they didn't explain it in the article, but when you go into it and actually research in it, it just was that then the government was happy with how many electric vehicles were there on the road at that point, so they decided to bring back the tax for the electric vehicles. So then you needed to start paying for it. So then, of course, less people wanted to buy it because they're more expensive than normal cars. So in Norway, for a long time, the electric cars were much cheaper than the normal cars, and so many people have them. So it really depends. And then gas is even more expensive here. Like gas is super expensive, super cheap in US compared to here. So it's just like really, you can't really compare. Like there's so many differences in like in how the governments work and how the cultures work. It's just so different. You can't just generalize like that at all. Yes, he said R&D so many times before he explained what it stood for. Yeah, I was so angry. I was angry. And if you live in an apartment with just parking spaces available, not the garage, where are you supposed to charge it? Does he know what an apartment is? I know. I don't think he does. We do have, we live in an apartment and we have like a parking lot in between the buildings, and there are a couple charging spots. And I think there are a couple charging spots. So if you get an electric car, there is a Tesla as well on the parking lot. So if you get a electric car, you can apply for the spot with electric with charging. So that works here, but I imagine it doesn't work everywhere, and it's not that simple everywhere, of course. So good point. And the way he talked about how the market works, if we pay more at first, we'll show everyone we're willing to pay, then competitors will make the same things and drive down the price. It works in a way. Again, it's not going to work with every single thing and every single time. It works, I would say, quite often, and with some things, not with everything, definitely. Like there are definitely some things that this would not apply for. But for example, if we talk about the burgers, the veggie burgers, and all the veggie vegan things, definitely were more expensive before it was popular. So then, people didn't buy it much, so it was more expensive to balance the expenses or whatever. And then the more people buy it, the cheaper it can be, for example. Like very simple example. So that's kind of how it would work for that, but of course that's not how it works for every single thing. So also very just like simple generalization for all the situations. So but yeah, it's hard to say all of it in here. Also not trying to um overdo it with information, I guess, is like a thin, like a balance line kind of to navigate. But I think, yeah, I'm gonna run it through the copal now. So first, for C, we have credibility and research. I think we said that he only knows his little things. It was not that much. um, he credibility, credibility. Did I say it correctly? What did I say? Credibility, credibility. Yes. There, I would give maybe out of 10, like six. He knew some stuff, and I think he left out a lot of other stuff. I'm gonna say 6.5, I think. 6.5. For A, we have authenticity and uniqueness. Sorry, that's not wise. No, I did not. No worries. He knew the stuff that applied to him and his foundations. Sure. Yeah, exactly. And the things he was interested in, but he didn't know all that much about, just like in general. So I also think he didn't he didn't cover everything that he possibly could, I think. But yeah, I would give it like 6.5. It wasn't horrible, but it was okay. -10 for uniqueness. Yeah, it was really not good. And just doing what everybody else is doing and not bringing anything new. Like he did say a lot about electricity. I learned a lot, but overall, I don't know. It just was weird. So I'm gonna say uniqueness and authenticity. Not much at all, actually. Disappointed in that. I'm gonna say 3.5. 3.5. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna say 3.5. Then we have writing and readability. A decent overview for rich people who have never read or heard anything about climate change. Yes, I think that is perfect summary, actually. Yes. But writing and readability, not good at all. As I said, I complained about it all the time. It was not good. Readability, I think, was okay in the beginning, like the first half. Second half, I was just bored. Could be also because I was tired, because I went to sleep at 2 a.m. last night and woke up today at 8, before 8. I don't know. So I was really tired. But the second half, I was just boring. I was falling asleep while listening to Will Wheaton. So that's not gonna get high rating at all. I'm gonna say like I wanna say 4.5. 4.5. I just need to give the fives. I don't know why. It's just because the first half was good. Second half I was bored. I hated how he dumbed everything down to 3 points, 5 things to remember. Yeah, that is true. Are you writing a pamphlet or a novel, sir? Yeah, it definitely felt like, okay, here is this, and I explain it in like 2 paragraphs. This in 2 paragraphs. This in 2 paragraphs, and then in the end. So to summarize, A, or like 1, 2, 3, and then like just list those things again. Like, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 4. You get a good point there. P for personal impact. Personal impact. I'm just gonna like Bill Gates less. I didn't have any issues with him before. I do now. Does that count as personal impact? Otherwise, I did learn about the electricity grid. Otherwise, it didn't really give me all that much, I guess. Also, the whole, we'll get to that later in chapter 5. Oh, table flip. Yes, that was annoying. That was definitely annoying. I do understand why he wanted to do it that way. He wanted to kind of like categorize it and make it like systemic, I guess, like to make it clear that yes, I'm not forgetting about it, but we'll talk about it later. But at the same time, it was frustrating. So I don't know how I feel about that. Same. He was a rich dude I didn't care about. Now he actively annoys me. Yes, exactly. So personal impact is gonna be about I'm gonna say 4 because I did learn about 4.5. I did learn about electricity. 4. 4.25. Okay, moving on. Intrigue. The only intrigue was if he was gonna get to a point or not, but he did not. I think intrigue is gonna be like a 4. Logic and informativeness. Logic 0. Informativeness was somewhat there. Not great. I'm gonna give it 3. This is gonna be bad rating, guys. 4.25. I just can't decide. Accurate on intrigue. I mean, enjoyment. The audiobook helped. You know what? I did rage it. That was fun. I don't usually rage when reading nonfiction, so that was not too bad. Actually, it's gonna be memorable that way. It's gonna be a fun vlog too, I think, kind of. So for enjoyment, I'm gonna give it a 4.5, 5. It was not that bad. And the total rating, I'm gonna wait it. He's never met Logic. She's a poor farmer in Sams. We are so mean. That's amazing. I enjoy Will Wheaton as a human and give it some stars for him. Yeah. True. He's nice. I loved him in Big Bang Theory. I loved his spat with Sheldon. But yeah, we've got 2.5 stars. Feels a little low, but I guess it's accurate. I think I thought it through this time, because usually I'm like, yeah, I just give it something that I feel like, and then but it feels too low for what I want, or too high for what I feel like. So then I adjust it. But now I feel like I actually thought about it and discussed it. So 2.5 stars. That's the lowest rated nonfiction I've ever had, I think. Like, could be close to, well, no other climate change or climate book I read was this bad. But there was one other nonfiction I didn't like that much. Maybe I gave that one 3 stars, though, not 2. So never mind. He has a very cute puppy. I recommend looking her up on Instagram. Oh, nice, cute. Yeah, I was thinking 2 stars because he annoyed me. Yes, he did. Definitely did. So far our worst book, huh? We've read so far 3 books. The climate book was 4 stars, I think, for me. The migrations were 5 stars. Oh, by the way, about that one, after our live show, after that, I got major anxiety attack, and I don't know why. I think it was because of what the book did to me, and discussing it, and it was just so intense. I got overloaded, and I got a horrible anxiety attack afterwards. So since then, I'm just like such a respect towards that book. But definitely left a strong impact on me. So yeah, highly. I meant Will Wheaton. That is. Yeah, yeah. Will Wheaton has a cute puppy, right? Disappointed but not surprised. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. I laughed out loud several times and known now that I'm not gonna read it. I would love to know what you laughed out loud at. I laughed too as well, and especially the one that Logic is a poor farmer in sub-Saharan Africa. Awesome. Um, but yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. It's usually just me and Jess. First time it was also Ewald who joined, so that was fun too. Oh no, it's okay, it's fine. It was just, I don't know. It was such an intense book, such strong vibes that I don't know. It just took me over somehow. I don't understand what happened. Thanks for hanging out, Natalie. Yes. Okay, so I think we can wrap up this awful book. I'm not gonna give it away. I'm gonna put it on my pricey, no, priceless nonfiction shelf. I need to create a nonfiction shelf. I want to have like all climate books together. So that goes there. Finally read that. And for next time, next book we are reading, and this is for July and August. I just went through it like this, and it seems very short. The text is like very big and has all like big gaps, so this should be very quick read. It is Weather by Jenny Ophil. Ophil? Not sure how to pronounce it. But this is a fiction book about Lizzie, who works in the library of a university where she was once a promising graduate student. Her side hustle is answering the letters that come into Hell and High Water, the doom-laden podcast hosted by her former mentor. At first, it suits her, this chance to practice her other calling as an unofficial shrink, but soon Lizzie finds herself struggling to strike the obligatory note of hope in her responses. The reassuring rhythms of her life as a wife and mother begin to falter as her obsession with disaster psychology and people preparing for the end of the world grows. Marvelous feat of uh, compression, compression. A marvelous feat of compression. Is that a thing? Shouldn't it be a marvelous feat of compassion? A mix of great feeling and wry humor, Weather is an electrifying encounter with one of the most gifted writers at work today. Um, it has something to do with environment as well, doesn't it? I'm sure it does. I think Hell and High Water is kind of like an environmental focused podcast or something like that. So excited about that. It's pretty short. Less than 200, no, 206 pages. 206 pages. A big font. Should be quick read. I don't know if I'll be able to squeeze it into Aurelium, into August. So probably will be the live show again, like first week of September or something. I'll probably read this first thing in September, I assume. So that's our next read. I'm so glad we dislike this book in similar ways. Yep, I was looking forward to renting. Me too. Me too. What's the next read gonna be? There. Yes, I did. Weather by Jenny Ophil. I haven't set up the live show yet. I will do it. How do you say it? As of right now, I would guess it's going to be maybe 8th of September, which is Friday. Maybe. We'll see. That's for now. We'll do again the poll on the book club's app website, and we'll find out what fits people the best. But that's the plan for now. Happy about the rent. Libby says the audio is 4 hours. Nice. Okay, so should be quick read then. It looks very quick. Like, I mean, yeah. So I'm excited. I hope I like it. I heard, I think, what's her name? Ariel? Yeah, I think Ariel. She loved it and she recommended it as like one of her favorite books about climate change, and like her favorite sci-fi, one of them anyway. So that's that. I think that's all. Thank you for the rant. It was a lot of fun, I think. I hope I wasn't too mean. I think he deserved it if I was, though. I will try to not read it so last minute this time. I can't make any such promise. I will try to, but I will probably fail. So, but yeah, thanks for the chat as always. Yeah, thank you very much for joining me. I love to read these books. It always kind of like motivates me and refreshes me. I love it. So thank you very much for joining and for hanging out. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of the day or great night. Have a happy weekend. I don't know if anything I'm saying makes any sense. But yeah, I will talk to you in one of my videos for sure. No sprints until August, though, probably. So thank you again. It was fun as always. And I will talk to you hopefully soon. Bye.